Hi, this is Dino, and I want to show you some new capability in the Apigee Edge administrative user interface dealing with API products, developers, and developer apps. So we've always been able to manage API products, developers, and developer apps. And just for review, the entity model works like this. Developers register with Apigee Edge, and each developer has zero or more apps. And here we've got Elaine, and Elaine's got 4 different apps associated. Each app has a set of keys or credentials, and each of those have access to API products. And that's basically the authorization model. So I've clicked through to the details page for a particular app, and there's some new things here, and I want to show you them. First, the app status is shown for the particular app. So there is a status for the app that governs all credentials. Next, rather than just listing a set of consumer keys, we're now showing more detail, and we're calling this list the credential list. For each key available, there is metadata that is shown for that. That is the issue time, the expiry time, the status of that API key, the key value itself, and as well the list of API products for which that key would be valid. And what you're seeing here is this one expired about 21 minutes ago. So while the key itself is marked as approved, that's not going to be valid at runtime. And so we use the strike through effect in the user interface to indicate, hey, you're going to look at this key and you're going to think it's approved, but it's not really going to work. And that's because it's expired. So I've got that consumer key and I've got other consumer keys. And just want to point out that this list of API products is distinct per key. So this key is going to be valid for product one. This other key is going to be valid for multiple different products. And we see the times on each of those. So let's have a look at how this works. I've got, just for the purposes of the demonstration, I've got a pass-through API proxy that calls verify API key, and we'll pass some of these through. So let's start with the happy path. And we'll copy this one in, and we'll first let's just invoke the API without passing the API key. And I get an error message, customized error message that I inserted with a fault rule that says, hey, you need to pass that in the HTTP header. So let's do that. And we'll add a header, API key, drop that one in. And this is the valid one that expires in about 3 months. And you'll see I'm getting a 200 OK, which is great, and a payload that indicates an IP address. So good. The verify API key succeeded. Let's try the expired API key. And as you would expect, this API key will be rejected. And I've inserted a fault handler that checks for the expired API key fault and inserts this message, responds with this message. So I get a 401 unauthorized and a message that says, the client credentials have expired, as expected. And then this one's also going to work. This is the other API key, which has a list of 2 API products, and it's certainly valid for API product number 1, which governs this API proxy. So that's also going to work. So let me try a couple of different things here. So we're going to edit this app, and the first thing I want to do is revoke or maybe I'll just remove product 1 from the API key that we just tried. So now we've got the same API key, but this one is going to be valid only for product 2, and product 2 does not include the API proxy that I just invoked. So let's invoke that same request again. API product 1 is not allowed with this API key, so we're getting invalid client as expected. So that's the correct expected response in this case. But there's more I can show you. Let's edit this again, and we'll revoke this API key. So now let's have a look at what we've got. We've got one set of credentials which has expired about 25 minutes ago, one which is valid but revoked. It's still current, but it's revoked. And then finally, another one which is valid for a different API product. And we've already seen this one in use. We've seen the expiry one in use. Now let's check this one out. This one has just been revoked. And what you should see is a custom error message that's injected by the fault handler that says, hey, that credential has been revoked, as expected. So why would you ever want to do this? Why would you want to be able to revoke credentials? Well, the obvious case is when this credential has been compromised. So, for example, you've had a security incident at the client. The developer themselves said, "Look, my laptop was stolen, or somebody hacked into our company network, and I'm not certain that these secrets are now secret anymore. So I'd like to get some new credentials." So you can revoke that credential and add a new credential. How would you add a new credential? Well, let's have a look at that. Again, in the edit panel, there's now a new motion that allows you to add a credential, and you can set the expiry of that credential. So you can set it to be never. You can set it to be a duration of, let's say, 90 days or 10 weeks or maybe 24 hours if you like, if you want to go as short as that. You do have to add an API product and then just click save, and what you'll get is a new credential. So now we have 4 credentials. Just created this one just now. It expires in about 24 hours, and there is my new API key. So I should be able to use that right away. It's already active. So we'll drop that in, and yep, sure enough, it's working great. So that's what it looks like to add a new credential. Something else I want to show you is the ability to revoke a developer app. So let's suppose you've decided for whatever reason, whether a security reason or a business reason, you want to revoke an entire app. So with the edit panel, I can mark an entire app to be revoked. And what that means is effectively all of the credentials, regardless of their expiry time, will be treated as invalid. Now, they're not individually marked as invalid. They're still marked individually as approved, but there is a governing status on the developer app, an umbrella status that will apply before basically all things have to be approved, including the developer app and the credential, in order for it to be treated as approved at runtime. So now what you'll see is that key that I just used, since I marked the developer app revoked, this will now be not passed by the verify API key policy, and I get a fault and a custom message that says, hey, the client has been revoked. And of course, you can always, that is a reversible process. You can approve the client after that. And once saved, that API key will then be approved, and you'll get your request to flow through. So really nice capability to add credentials, approve or revoke the status of individual credentials, and approve or revoke the status of a developer. Now I want to show you another aspect of this, and that is with the status of the developer themselves. So I can click through this developer. This developer name is Sterling Moss, and you'll see this Sterling Moss is marked as active. Now we've got a new user interface capability to mark this developer as inactive. So I've just done that. I'm going to save Sterling Moss. I'm going to go into the app. The app that Sterling has registered is set as approved. The credentials are set as approved. This one does not expire, so it should be valid except for the fact that Sterling Moss himself is marked as inactive. And when that happens, all developer keys, all keys for all apps for this developer are invalid at runtime. So I'm passing in that API key for Sterling Moss, and the verify API key is rejecting it at runtime because of the status of the developer. If I go back in and reset the status of the developer to be active, that means all of the keys that developer has will then get their current status, whether that's approved or revoked. And this one in particular was approved, so we should now see that request go through. When would you want to see that? When would you want to use this capability? When you have a business arrangement or a business relationship with a developer, and perhaps you would like to disable their account. Maybe there's some loss of keys and you're not really sure who's using the keys. You can disable the developer account that way and prevent use of any of those keys. So right there, I've shown you a couple new features in the administrative user interface, and we think Apigee Edge is improving the capability that you have to engage with developers and offer an API platform. Thanks for watching.